An Eagle in the Snow, Part 4, Chapter 4. So for the first time the next day, when he went out walking, Billy took his sketchbook and his stool as usual, but he also took the pistol with him inside his jacket. He waited for hours hidden in the trees, longing for Hitler to take his walk, willing him to do it. He didn't come. All that came were the clouds rolling up the valley, giant clouds that soon shrouded the trees, the house, the mountains. Day after day Billy waited. Hitler never came. But despite how thick the clouds, how hard it snowed, or how cold he was, he only became more determined to stick it out, no matter what. He wasn't going to give up now. He never once in all this time doubted this was the right thing to do. He only doubted whether Hitler would come at all, whether he would ever have the opportunity to do what he had come for. He found if he concentrated hard on drawing the eagles, it helped pass the time, forget the cold, helped soften the disappointment. Then one afternoon, Hitler did come, and when he did, Billy wasn't ready for him. The eagle he had been drawing, which had been circling high over the peaks, went into a sudden stoop, swooping down, closer, closer, his talons open, ready for the kill. Billy hadn't even noticed the hare until the eagle was on him, landing in the open snow, only yards away from the trees where Billy was sitting. He had never in his life been this close to an eagle, and once he had recovered from the surprise, he drew fast, not wanting to miss the moment. Then somewhere a dog started barking. The eagle lifted off, lumbering into the air, the hare limp in his talons. A dog was bounding down through the snow towards the eagle, towards Billy, hackles up. It was a huge Alsatian, his bark and his growl fearsome, intimidating. That was when Billy looked up and saw Hitler in his peaked cap and his long black coat. He was still some way away. He was strolling down the road, and there were 6 or 7 other men, all of them in black uniforms, 2 of them ready in their rifles. Everything was happening so fast and not at all as Billy had expected it. But he kept his head. The dog would not stop him. The sight of the raised rifles would not stop him. He was going to do it. He had to. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for all this time. He stepped calmly out of the trees and stood there on the snow-covered hillside, his pistol held behind his back, ready. There he waited. At his feet was a spattering of blood on the snow where the eagle had made his kill. Hitler was still 100 yards off with his soldiers, some of them running now down the road towards Billy. Billy waited, waited. It had to be close as possible. He must not miss. But the dog was coming closer all the while, barking wildly, snarling. Billy had waited too long. The dog was on him before he knew it, leaping up and knocking him to the ground. He was flat on his back in the snow, the dog astride him, not biting him at all, as Billy had expected, but licking his face all over. He still had the pistol in his hand. He gripped it. He could still do it, if only the dog would get off him. But the soldiers were already all around him. Too late, too late. At the last moment he plunged the pistol into the snow, thrust it down deep as it would go. Then they were pulling the dog off him and hauling him roughly to his feet. Moments later, Adolf Hitler was standing there, right in front of him, looking him in the eye. Billy knew at once that Hitler recognised him. Neither spoke a word, but for a few moments both stood there, knowing one another, remembering. Billy could feel the hardness of his pistol in the snow under his foot. The 2 soldiers had Billy by the arms, gripping him tight. Hitler waved them away. Then he simply nodded, turned, and walked off. The dog was sniffing round Billy's feet, more interested now in the blood of the hare than anything else. Billy stayed where he was, the pistol under his foot, until they called the dog off. Then he found himself alone on the hillside, watching Hitler walk away, just as he had done 20 years before, and knowing in his heart of hearts as he stood there that he could no more have shot him this time than he had before. The stranger paused then for a few moments and cleared his throat. "Well, that's about it almost," he went on. Billy came home to Christine and told no one, except her, where he had been, nor what he had tried to do. She said he had tried to do the right thing, but that it would have been the wrong thing had he done it, and he knew she was right about that. "So how do you know then, if he didn't tell anyone except her?" I asked him. "Ah, well, that'd be telling, wouldn't it?" he said mysteriously. "He's a sharp one, your boy, missus. Just like Billy, and you're a Mulberry Street lad, just like we were. That's why I told you all about it, son. Like I said, no one else knows the story, just the three of us, and Billy, of course, and he wouldn't mind you knowing. In fact, I reckon he'd want you to know. It's how we live on in our stories, right?" "All down to that ruddy dog," Ma said. "I can't believe it. If he hadn't knocked that Billy over, then Hitler might be dead and the whole war might never have happened. Never did like dogs, especially not Alsatians. They's wolves, more'n dogs." "Let's all get a bit of shut-eye, shall we?" said the stranger in the darkness. "Only one more match left. Better not waste it, eh? Still, you'll manage without it now, I reckon. Be out of here soon enough." "Good story, mister," I said. He never replied. We went to sleep then, all of us. I don't know for how long. The train jolted us awake, and a moment or two later it was on the move. Then we were out of the tunnel altogether, the train driver taking it slowly, I thought, just in case. And I was peering up out of the window looking to see if there were any more fighters up there. There weren't. The clouds were gone too. It was a clear blue sky. Then Ma said suddenly, "Where's he gone then?" The stranger wasn't there. There was no one in the seat opposite. Ma and I looked at one another. "Must have gone to the lab," she said. But the stranger never came back. A minute or so after this, the guard opened the carriage door. "Going to be a little late into London," he said. "You all right in here?" "That man that was in here with us," Ma said. "You seen him?" "What man?" said the guard. "There was just the two of you when I came in before. Weren't no man." I remembered the hat then that the stranger had put up in the luggage rack by our case. I looked up. It wasn't there. "He was here," Ma insisted. "He was, wasn't he, Billy?" "Course," I said. "Course he was." The guard raised his eyebrows at us as if we were mad. "If you say so, madam. If you say so. Now, if you don't mind, I've got a job to do." And he went out, sliding the door closed behind him. Ma and I looked at one another. "He told us that story," I began, "about Hitler, about not killing him in the war when he could have, when he should have, and then about going over to Germany with his pistol to shoot him in the mountains, and the eagle, and all that. He told us, didn't he? Weren't just a dream, were it, Ma?" Ma reached down then and picked up something lying at her feet. It was the box of Swan Vesta matches. She opened it. Inside were 4 used matches, one still unused, and that wasn't all. There was a small black pebble and a spent cartridge. She struck the match. "Real matches," she said. Everything was real. No dream, Barney. No dream. End of part 4. No matches left. Come back tomorrow to find out more about the stranger.